I'm with Mark Bowman, who's actually in the office right now with us. There's a physical, real place.
Yeah,
How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. I'm doing well.
The big topic today is rate adjustment tools. Would you talk to me as if I didn't know what that is?
Absolutely. Yeah, certainly. There are, first of all, let me just say that rates, everybody seems to, that's the big thing, right? Everybody wants to know, where do I set my rates? What do I do? Are my rates too high? Are they too low? Should I make some kind of adjustments? Is there something out there that can automatically help me do that? And the answer to that is yes, pretty much. You need to make sure that your rates are in a reasonable spot, right? You don't want to have a two bedroom on the same block as another two bedroom, and they're asking 150 and you're asking 400. It's not going to work. So you need to know, where are my rates? What do they need to be? And are there things out there that can help me?
So yeah,
So
what are those things that would help? I mean, is it just me gathering my own like trying to look at all my competitors, or what's the best way of doing that?
that is one way to do it. That is the manual way, I guess. Getting out there and just doing the footwork and bringing up your Airbnb maps and looking and saying, well, what are the other people charging, and let me do that. So that is one way to do it, and there are a number of people that do that. There are also some third-party companies out there like Beyond Pricing. There's Price Labs, there's Wheelhouse, and I know there's others, but those are the three primarily that we integrate with directly, that have the ability to examine the market in many, I say, I would just say thousands of data points,
Yeah.
because you can only look at so much. They're looking at things like, well, what are the people searching for? Are they searching for a unit with a hot tub? Are they searching for something with a pool? And if yours has a pool or a hot tub, and a lot of people are searching for that, and there's not a lot of occupants vacancy, then they'll raise your rent by a few dollars for each one of those things. And so they can make those adjustments. So there's a number of tools available out there that analyze all those thousands of data points and raise or lower your rent depending on what the market demand is for those
Okay.
things.
And then if I'm using BrightSide, or I'm using Airbnb and Verbo or Booking.com, do those apps automatically do that price change for me, or are they just going to give me a report and then I go and manually change all my units?
Well, the way that it works, that's a good question. Brightside becomes sort of the central location for all of your pricing for everything when you're using Brightside. When you turn it over to someone like Up Beyond or Price Labs or Wheelhouse, you're really turning over the pricing to them. Their analytics, they're going to change it in their software, and then they're going to feed that to Brightside where we change it. Now, when someone like Airbnb, the way that it works with Airbnb and Verbo, Booking.com, when a guest goes to those websites and they put in their dates and they request rates in real time, Airbnb and Verbo, those guys, they check our pricing in Brightside to know what is the rate for this exact day for this exact moment. So when those third-party uh, companies that are managing the rates, when they feed that into Brightside, the guests will see that on the OTAs in real time.
Mm.
What is the rate supposed to be?
So it really does take the work off of you having to go in manually change all your rates. And
Yes, that's correct. And there's sometimes there's a trust issue, because
Mhm.
some people say, well, I don't know if I want to turn over all of my rates to
Yeah.
some third party. All they want to do is try to get people in there and lower my rates until it's all full. And well, they do want to put more people in your beds, right? They want to get more people and fill those beds in those homes. Um, and that should be any property manager's goal, is to fill up those things, right? But you don't want to do it to the detriment of, well, those just do it so low that it just doesn't make
There's
sense,
It costs
because I
money
mean, they're,
to service
yeah.
a unit.
Plus, as a property manager, there's always that tension between the owner saying, man, I want this much money, don't lower it, that you can't go that low. I don't want that to happen. Well, there are measures that you can take to put it in there where you say, well, I want the bottom to be, let's say, $200 a night, and that prevents one of these companies from lowering it
That's
below
great. So
that.
there are like fail-safe conditions you can put in.
Absolutely, yeah, so that they can make sure that your owner's not saying, well, I said 200 and they lowered it to 135, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can put those rates in there, which is your minimums, so that you can make sure that your owners are going to be happy with that. And I have seen it. I've seen it just recently where a company actually raised the rent on a reservation by $800, and the owner was the manager was like, "Wow, I've never gotten that much for it." And I was like, "Well, because you didn't ask that much."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it can go both ways. They can raise it because they know, hey, there's a lot of demand for what people are looking for, and you can get more for your property. Just let me add this, just sort of a psychological note. As a consumer, sometimes they're out there looking at units, and they'll look at your unit, which is say for a 5-night stay, it might be $1,000, and then they're looking at this other unit, and it might be a little bit more expensive. Say it's a lot of expensive, like it might be $1,500 or $1,600, but they might look at yours as suspicion because they're like, well, why is that so much cheaper than this one? Because
is there something wrong with it, or is it a bad area?
Yeah,
like,
is there? Yeah, so a lot of people will go with the more expensive one because they're like, okay, then this is going to be better because it costs more. So they're
trying to
there's
guarantee
a little bit of
a good vacation.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of that in there. So I would say sometimes, turning it over to a company like Beyond or Price Labs or Wheelhouse, sometimes that can be a little bit daunting because you're like, I don't know what they're going to do. And if you're uncomfortable with that, BrightSide does have, internally, we have a tool called an auto rate adjustment tool that is free to use if you're using BrightSide, and it can adjust your rates automatically in there. It doesn't use as many data points as these other companies do. They're using thousands of data points, and we're only using two things basically. We're using occupancy levels and time. So how that in a real world, how that looks is that if you say, I want to go a month out, and if I have a unit that is basically it's unoccupied, or let's just say it's 100% unoccupied, then you can put that rule in there that says if we're a month out and there's nobody in there scheduled for those 30-day period, I want to lower my rent by 10%, and BrightSide will automatically make that adjustment for you. You can also do it where you could have it where you can say, if it's 30 days out, I want to adjust it down, say 5%. If we're 21 days out, I want to bump it down another 5%. So we'll
you can put those conditions in over time.
Exactly. So it's just one line in BrightSide that says if the occupancy is below 100%, then I want to, at this number of days, I want to lower it this amount. You could also conversely say, if I'm 30 days out and I'm 80% booked, I want to raise the rent for any vacant spots that we have in there. I want to raise it by 15%.
Yeah.
And it'll do that.
And Mark, would you mind just sharing your screen of like where we would find this in BrightSide? So if someone wanted someone wanted to tinker around on this themselves, obviously they could email you at support@bookonthebrightside.com.
So if you want to use this auto rate adjustment tools, you just go up to properties in the menu and you drop down right here. It says auto rate adjustments, and click on that. And it's going to bring up this screen here. Now we don't have any adjustment rules in here just yet, so it's just a blank screen. But let me add this. We have a lot of BrightSide users that do not take advantage of this tool, and I think it's a mistake because it's a really good tool that can help you do some things automatically to help adjust your rates without having to get in there and micromanage. We do have some companies that have someone they're large enough where they have someone that's their job is to basically monitor the rates, and that's all they do is manage the rates. And they use this tool. But even if you don't have someone that's committed every day from sun up to sundown to looking at your rates, this is a good way to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and thank you to everybody viewing and all of our friends who are using BrightSide or Anchor Point. We really appreciate you guys, and so we hope you get value out of this. I'll see you all soon.
Good. Sounds good. See you, Scott.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.